Welcome back to Swadhyaya channel interview with Balaji Vittal ji. This is the book I am very much interested in, and I have read it many times very critically. In fact, being a Hindi film song buff myself too, and with ideas of my own too, I dissected this book point by point, and that we'll discuss later when I introduce this book as a reviewer. But now that Balaji Vittalji is here, we'll hear and clear my doubts about from the horse mouth. Mm. This is one book that has long been waiting to come out. Hindi film songs have not been analyzed and have not been explained to common man. They listen to it while having a tea, while driving, or in a hotel, while conversing at the background. But Hindi film songs have to be really meditated upon, is what this book tells us. Now, how did you hit upon this idea?
We did not. This idea was given by the publisher, HarperCollins. This happened around the same time when we got the contract for the R.D. Burman book. So within a few months of that contract, we got this contract. And it sounded pretty interesting. So we signed the contract. But then, what do we select 50 songs on what basis? Do we go for the obvious 50?
What is the obvious 50?
Awara Hu, or Nagin, or your Mughal Azam.
So the same
Pyar Kiya To Darna Kya.
One of the mill songs.
I wouldn't know. They're great songs. They're fantastic songs. But do we go for the obvious 50? Or do we go for our selection? If we go for our selection, we are standing exposed to the question, who are you to select? Are you Javed Akhtar? Are you Gulzar? Who are you? What are your credentials to select 50 songs?
We question even Javed Akhtar if he doesn't select the song I like.
Yeah. And we knew that nobody's going to agree with this list. Everyone will have a different list of the 50 songs. So we knew what we were up against. We said that somewhere we have to... Then we decided, let's not try and make anyone happy because nobody's going to be happy. Let's look at what is right. Let's look at it objectively. So we said, let's look at a list which is fairly representative of various decades, various genre of music, various composers, lyricists, filmmakers, and actors. Let's look at, so there's got to be a bhajan, there's got to be a qawwali, there's got to be a western, there's got to be a romantic solo, there's got to be a romantic duet, there's got to be a sentimental solo. Okay, there's got to be those various, and it has got to be representative of the decade. It should give a flavor of the Indian history. So don't worry about who's going to be happy and who's going to be unhappy. Let's look at what is the best fit algorithm. But then it had to be representative without being quota system. For example, just because it is there, I can't just include a Sri Ramchandra music. If Sri Ramchandra music is not fitting into any of these, for example, we're talking about, say, rock and roll, right? Maybe I'm inclined to include Ina Mina Dika, but then I have to see who else was better in the Western genre than him, right? For example, bhajan. S.D. Burman bhajan, naam main dhan chahu, naam from Kala Baza.
Tere charanon ki dhool mil jaye, to main tar jaun.
Very good song, brilliant song. Or even the song in Julie, right? But the fact is, Allah Tero Naam, it beats the daylight out of everyone. This is an automatic selection, right? So that way we had to debate, and then we said 20% of the songs will keep it like chef recommends. Like Jag Dile Diwana, Ruth Jagi Vasle Yaar Ki. It's a less known song, but it's a jewel. It's a gem. You have to go 20,000 feet below the sea, and then you'll get a jewel like that. You'll get a gem like that, right? So we could have included maybe another Shami Kapoor popular song and played safe, but we said let's not play it safe because there is no safe ground on this.
Yes.
Let's look at what we feel it is, right? Even in Awara, we said go for the medley song and not Awara Hu. So it was a bit of a bold statement. It was a bit of we think we know it, but that's how the algorithm worked out. Then we figured out suddenly at one point that we had not included anything about Amitabh Bachchan. There was no Amitabh Bachchan song. I said, ye kaise ho sakta hai? We said, should we leave it out altogether because Amitabh was not known for his music anyway. Then we said, no, but we can't leave him out. That's when we said, okay, let's pick this song from Silsila because it includes Shiv Hari, it includes Amitabh as well. Okay, so that gives us sort of a blend. And then we said some real.
But in Silsila, obvious choice would have been Dekha Ek Khwab To Ye Silsile Hue.
Yes.
You picked up Ye Kahan Aa Gaye Hum.
Yes. Because it's a better song, clearly. Or even picking on Nazia Hassan. Is she as good as a great singer? No, she is not.
But a trendsetter.
But a trendsetter, absolutely. A 15-year-old girl, and the first time that a non-Indian is winning the Filmfare Award. People lined up in 10,000 numbers in Bombay. So many people thought because Mrs. Indira Gandhi is landing. No, it was a young 15-year-old schoolgirl landing. And imagine what a sensation it created.
And it changed the complexion of Hindi films.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So she deserves to be here.
Absolutely deserves to be here. And the book ends with A.R. Rahman. How the baton handed over from someone like an R.D. Burman to A.R. Rahman, and then Min Mini, how she sang that song. So
Chinni Chinni Asha.
Chinna Chinna Asha. So I actually went to Cochin, interviewed her, Min Mini, and all that. So that's how the whole thing came about. And fortunately, it worked out.
And obviously, your selection like Kasme Wade Pyar Wafa Sab cannot be questioned. But at the beginning, you just Chale Pavan Ki Chaal, Jag Mein Chale Pavan Ki Chaal, and you jumped from there to leaving so many songs. Tera Vinay Aage Chandni. What about Cycle?
Cycle is there. If you look at the first song, it said the last Nawab and the first.
Yes.
Right? So there we have started the homage to Cycle because Cycle is way above anyone else, right? He is. How can you classify men with God? God is a different place, so we put him as God. We start the book by paying a homage to him in one small chapter, and then started the book. So that is outside of 50.
But what is the criteria? Like how you felt one song like Man Re Tu Kahe Na Dheer Dharo, you selected it instead of Jo Wada Kiya Wo Nibhana Padega or things which are famous. Like how did it zero in on Man Re Tu Kahe Na Dheer Dhare?
Well, there had to be a. For example, take the case of Roshan. I mean, we said which are the best of Roshan, which is the best of S.D. Burman, which is the best of Shankar Jaikin, which is the best of Kalyan Anji, which is the best of Salil Chaudhary, Jaydev, and so on. So if I take a nodal point as the composer and then flow down from there and say which are the best of them, of these people, and then you have to select saying that it has to cover various genres, right? And then it has to cover the timeline. So it was a very complex algorithm, actually, if you look at it.
Very difficult job.
Very difficult because it made us take very difficult decision like O Sajna Barkha Bahar Aayi. We had to leave that song out.
That is what my next question was about.
And people said, Balaji, what have you done? Anirudh, what have you left out a song like that? I said, look at it this way. Salil Chaudhary was still current and green in the 1970s. And I had to make that statement in a book because it's a story book. So I'd rather include Kai Baar Yun Bhi Dekha Hai, which is the 1970s, to show that how relevant and how modern he still was. If I had sacrificed this and just shown that, it can't just be on the popularity because it has also got to talk about the significance of that song or the significance of that composer. It had to go the mile. It can't just be cloistered. It can't just be in the 60s or cloistered in the 70s. It had to make a statement, which is why Jaydev, figuring in the 80s, Bazaar was one of his best. Maybe even better than Footpath. So that's why Dikhai Diye Yun Ke Bekhud Kiya.
It is Khayyam.
I'm sorry, Khayyam. My apologies. Khayyam. He was still there. Right? So imagine Khayyam, more than 50s and 60s is featured in 80s. Where suddenly at this stage of his life, he brought out the best. So those are the statements we are making. Or Madan Mohan, how modern he became. How, from the sitar, he shifted to a guitar-based song like Tum Jo Mil Gaye Ho. So the book, the selection of songs also makes a statement. It also tries to show the significance of the composer, of the film, of the decade. It's not just about whether it's a good song or a bad song. Everything is a good song. And if there are 50 songs, there are 5,000 other songs which are equally good. Though that's where the challenge. See, we long listed 100 songs. That was relatively easy. Then we cut it down to 75. That was difficult. Cutting down from 75, we came out about 60. Then it was impossible.
And even I am surprised at your selection of रात के हम सफर थक के लौट चले घर के लौट चले झूमती आ रही है सुबह प्यार की in An Evening in Paris, when compared to other songs of Shankar Jaikishan during that period. How did you zero in on रात के हम सफर? Because orchestra wise, magnificent song, picturization is good, Shailendra had really done a great job, but still there are so many other songs of Shankar Jaikishan in the same film,
Or even other films.
other films. So how?
What strikes you when you talk about An Evening in Paris? What strikes your mind?
Many things.
Like,
अकेले अकेले कहाँ जा रहे हो.
no, forget the songs. As a film, what strikes you?
One thing about Shankar Jaikishan music is you don't remember the film, you remember the songs.
Okay.
Everything about the films of Shankar Jaikishan, it is the songs that you say जानवर, you say लाल छड़ी मैदान कड़ी, you say जंगली, चाहे कोई एहसान तेरा होगा मुझ पर. So it is the songs through by which we remember Shankar Jaikishan films, not by the hero, not by the way we watch the film. Especially me, I'm talking about.
No, fair enough.
So this Raat Ke Hum Safar selection is wonderful because it throws light on underappreciated song. But as a generally, I'm asking in how you zeroed in on it.
For example, I'll tell you, in the case, I can tell you for each of the songs. Raat Ke Hum Safar is from Evening in Paris, a film which has stood out as an icon for modernity, the modern woman, the modern relationship, and it was representative of the 60s where Bollywood went abroad. Love in Shimla, or even to exotic locations. 60s was about exotic locations. Love in Simla, Love in Kashmir, Ye Kashmir Thi Kali, this, that, all the exotic Night in London, right? So this represented that 60s ka, that escapist romantic genre where people just take off. No one knows what work he does. He's not working in any office. He's not even, doing any meaningful work or business. He just has the money to go abroad. Nobody knows how. But that's what it was. It was escapist.
Naturally,
It was Shami Kapoor. And it was Sharmila Tagore.
Yes.
Right? It was about her modern clothes, the modern woman, the fashionable woman. Right? So it was about, it was about that dreamland. And this song represented the night. Because Paris is about
Romance.
the night and the romance. So it was Raat Ke Hum Safar. So it came out. Similarly, the medley song in Awara. You may say, why not Awara?
Medley song is a master creation. No doubts about it. No.
Yeah.
And even I'm not objecting to it. I'm only asking you how you zeroed in on this because this is much less appreciated song.
Yes.
In this.
And because it represented something.
And
Evening in Paris as a film represented something.
And actually, I have another doubt. Like, Shakti Samanta was making two films at the same time, one big budget, one small budget, like Aradhana and In Evening in Paris, Shankar Jaikishan and S.D. Burman. And if you see, Aradhana was a trendsetter, but I don't find it represented here.
That's another thing we have to leave out. Because we're already covering S.D. Burman. We have to put a cap on how many songs of each composer we took out. Right? S.D. Burman was already there in 3 or 4 songs, so we could not just randomly, we could not include any more of S.D. Burman, unfortunately. So that's why we had to sort of leave that out and pick out the other ones of S.D. Burman, like Pucho Na Kaise Maine Rain Bitai.
That's
That's masterpiece. Right. So it is not just about the song in the book, it is about also what that sequence represents, what that film stands for. Why, for example, we had to include Chitragupt because Chitragupt, unfortunately, is an underrated, brilliant. He's brilliant, but his films are not that commercially successful.
Because he was confined to B grade, C grade films, not the top grade.
Yes. So how do you pay a homage to him? How do you recognize what he has done? Right? We short selected Ganga Ki Lehrein. Then we said, just hear this song, Jag Dile Deewana. One of Rafi's best.
And in that all
sings like velvet. It's like velvet.
Yes.
So that's what it was. His other choice was Ye Parvaton Ke Daire from Vasna. Then we said, no, let's go for this.
Even in the same film of Jag Dile Deewana, or you have this Dil Ka Diya Jala Ke Gaya.
That is
Akashdeep. Even that's a very great song.
Amazing.
So, Khayyam, I expected Baharo Mera Jivan Bhi Samaro.
Yeah, I know. but Dikhai Diye Yoon,
It's good, wonderful.
yeah, and also significant because of the lyricists that you're including, Mir Taki Mir, right? We also had to include various lyricists in the whole thing.
So when you are selecting, you're not only keeping an eye on the importance of song in Hindi film song development sequence, also on the music directors, on the lyricists,
And the significance of the film, the significance or the under significance, like Unche Log,
Yes.
which was under significant, right? Or some other films which are not that, but we had to include that to make a point, saying that please look at this. This is something we have missed out.
Mhm.
The significance of the film, for example, Silsila, was it a great film? Nothing even close to it, right? Was the song, but was significant because it was Shiv Hari. Shiv Hari's music and Amitabh Bachchan, Rekha, which was supposed to be a life story of the three of them, which was not correct actually. But it had that significance. That movie is still significant. You like it or love it, you like it or leave it. It is significant because a lot of men squirmed uncomfortably in their seats, sitting next to their wives while watching the film.
And I have this question, like when I read the book, in Pakiza, you zeroed in on Chante Chante. Well, there is Mosam Hai Ashikana and Thade Rahiyo, such ethereal songs. So how did you select this Chante Chante Mujhe Koi Mil Gaya Hai?
For the same reasons why we selected Mera To Jo Bhi Kadam Hai from
Dosti.
Because listen to the sound, it is a very different sound, a booming sound. Right?
That's
It
it.
is a very booming sort of a thing, a melancholy, right? Someone who has lost a loved friend, and somehow again there was this chemistry between me and Anirudh. We suddenly it's struck us saying this song has to be the one.
So there was unanimity about Chante Chante.
Absolutely, it somehow struck a chord. We said, yeah, Chalte Chalte and this song.
Mhm.
Even in Wo Khwanti, how can you select any song? What do you do?
And
Any of the three Lata solos could have come in.
And this is all about classic Hindi film songs.
Right.
Then how did Ae Mere Watan Ke Logo come in?
Yeah, because we said that we'll include one which is 51st, which is outside of this. See, leave out the cycle part. That is a homage. That is like a Saraswati Vandana you do before doing anything about music. The last one, honestly, because we felt bad that we had not included two reasons. We had not included Sri Ramchandra. We could not include him for some reason. The other reason is very few non-film songs have become so popular. It stayed in public memory. Still, some people, it's still there. Of course, a lot of it is even more significant. Or I would say, Sare Jahan Se Acha. It ranks almost on par with that in terms of the sentimental appeal as an Indian or whatever I have. So we said that song has to feature somewhere. So it's 50 classic songs and then the 51st song, which is a non-filmy classic, on par with it. That was the reason. It was a bit of a force fit.
And was there any discussion in including Diwan Hua Badal?
No,
Unanimous.
absolutely. It was one of OP Nayyar's best creation. It was just a question of which one do we pick. Do we pick this or do we pick that?
Hai Duniya Usi Ki Zamana Usi Ka.
That was a solo. We had to pick a romantic duet.
Okay.
So which romantic duet do you pick? Which it was toss up between this and Isharo Isharo Mein Dil Dene Wale.
Oh.
But we picked this. See, there are other sentimental solos. So we left Hai Duniya Usi Ki. There were other sentimental solos in 70s like Amar Prem and all that. So,
Wo Shaam Kuch Ajeeb Thi.
Wo Shaam Kuch Ajeeb Thi. So enough of enough of sentimental solos. Let's go to some romantic duets. Bhi to hona chahiye na?
And it also symbolizes that somewhere along the line romance was lost during 70s.
Yeah, after the first half of 70s, after 74, after Amitabh Bachchan came in, romance was tagged along, but romance didn't lead. It was action led. It was Amitabh led.
And heroines too lost their character, like their importance.
In the Amitabh films it was, but then again they quickly recovered lost ground. If you look at Kabhi Kabhi, it was about a strong woman, right, who had stood up and sort of delivered a child out of wedlock, or even Trishul, right? It was not necessarily the heroine who was strong. There was a very strong woman in Diwar. There was a very strong woman in Trishul, right? Just that she was not the heroine. She was the mother of the hero.
Yes, Trishul, that mother song was great.
Yeah.
Sahir Ludhianvi. So, Gaata Rahe Mera Dil, even though actually I have a lot more questions, but actually your answer to these few questions have answered so many questions that are going to crop up. Because I cannot say why did you select this song, why didn't you select that song? Because ultimately it is your choice.
See, because either also you have to look at whether the lyricist is included in that, or whether the film in itself represents something, the genre itself represents something, right? There are times when the film is significant or unsignificant, as I said. So that's why certain films make it to the cut.
And was there any difference of opinion in selecting the songs, and you had to ultimately compromise?
No, we debated. We debated healthily. We enjoyed the debates, and that's what made the list refined. It was debates and debates and debates. We talked through the night. Why should this be there? Why should that not be there? And that only added value to the whole thing, right? Because it helped us getting absolutely convinced about this list. Anything that we were not convinced with, we left out.
And that's one of the reasons why your answers are so there is a clarity in your answers for every sort of question, because you already debated about it, discussed about it, and understood the importance of each song.
Discussed at length, and we said let's keep on arguing with each other, so that when anyone raises the point, we have a valid question, we have a valid answer for it.
And is there any your personal favorite not included in this, which you very much wanted to include? Or
Oh, Sajna Barkha Bahar. That's my personal favorite. Then Chaya Ganguly's Aapki Yaad Aati Rahi Raat Bhar. It was there in the shortlist. It was there in the 60 that we made. Then we had to leave it out.
And what else have you left out from the 60?
Many. I could have, I could have put Dilaj Shayar here, my personal favorite.
Yes.
Or Kiska Rasta Dekhenge.
Oh, that's the great song. You have left out very wonderful songs. Now you are whetting my appetite.
No, people can write one more. People can write. Why not we write one in Telugu? I mean, which you already done. I think you have done it already.
I done in Hindi too.
You've done in Hindi. I think there can be a good book like this on Telugu. There are so many wonderful music. Why not?
But these days you have to take into account so many sentiments.
It's nothing personal. It's a observation as an analyst. What is wrong in that? I don't understand what is wrong.
Actually, I have a question about every song here, and I have want to discuss about so many selections. But the problem is we are running short of time. So I think
I hope you like the titles of each chapter.
Even I want to discuss about.
Please, let's do that. We can do that.
Because you mentioned one bhajan, and you selected another bhajan as the quintessential bhajan. Naam hai dhan chahu na ratan chahu, or Allah tera naam Ishwar tera naam. I find Allah Tera Naam to be marvelous creation, both lyric wise, tune wise, and singing.
And even the chorus.
Yes.
One of the best renditions by chorus.
This song is marvelous. But when it comes to Naam hai dhan chahu na ratan chahu, Shailendra never took the name of the God. He doesn't believe in God. He never took Allah or Ishwar.
God, which name?
There is no God. Here, Shailendra was talking about our Labhaman mohe lobh lal chahe, kaise naag lal chahe. So he was saying that our desires are the nag, or the snakes that bite us. So I want to escape from them. So teri charno, whose charan? He doesn't know.
Teri charno ki dhool mein paunga. Right.
So what I feel is that song is superior in all aspects to Allah Tera Naam, especially lyric-wise or something like personal opinion. So how did you leave that and take this? That is one question that is really troubling me.
See, as a musical, Hum Dono is ranked better. That no one can debate that. Why we selected this over that is one. If I look at Jaidev, if I start with say Jaidev, which is the best of Jaidev and the one which became successful, there are not too many, right? He deserved a much better deal in the industry. And Hum Dono is one of Jaidev's best, maybe his best. One of his best, definitely from a composition standpoint, and the best commercially. So we had to include Jaidev's best to put him on that high pedestal that he deserves, right? And put a crown on his head and sort of pay the respects to him for what he has done for the industry all these years, but never got the due recognition, right? And then in Hum Dono, which one do I pick? Which is the best? So it helps me cover the bhajan genre as well. Are you getting me? Because when I talk about S.D. Burman, there are other songs of S.D. Burman I'm talking about anyway. If I assume that Naam Hai Dhan Chahu and Allah Tero Naam are same to same, assuming that both are equally good, but with this I'm covering something about Jaidev, I'm covering one more of Sahir, right? And I'm recognizing Hum Dono as a musical as well. So this algorithm actually is very complex. It's like selecting an IPL team in the auction, right? You pick a star batsman, or do you pick two ordinary uncapped batsmen? You pick this all-rounder, or you pick that. Do you pick a wicket keeper, or do you pick another batsman who can also do wicket keeping? It was a very complex algorithm.
And when I read about Sun Mere Bandhure, I sense a conflict in your writing, basically because maybe you wanted that जलते हैं जिसके लिए तेरी आंखों के दिए.
But then S.D. Burman is a singer. We had to somewhere highlight, right? As a singer, because he could sing in a raw, earthy voice, and also the genre, the Bhatiyali genre. The Bhatiyali has been covered extensively in Hindi films. If you look at even Shalimar, Kitni akeli thi wo rahein is Bhatiyali, right? Or Aaja meri baahon mein aa, everything Bhatiyali. So that is a genre which S.D. Burman brought in. It was purely from his soil, from his water, from his mud that he grew up. He took that and brought it to Bombay. So no better way to celebrate that particular subgenre than this song.
And by singing those two songs, you brought out another aspect of R.D. Burman, where he mixed Bhatiyali with the westernized music.
Yeah, and that's what he showed us that he's a master of
Because
innovation.
Hum Bevfa Hargiz Na The is a very beautiful song, but nobody suspects this to be a Bhatiyali influence.
It is Bhatiyali, completely Bhatiyali influenced. Try to sing this song along with माझी तेरी नैया को छूटा किनारा कहाँ ले चली समय की धारा. So it blends into that. So that's what it is. So it had to, any song selection was a result of a very complex sort of a matrix.
And how long did it take for you to select these songs and write this book?
We kept selecting as we writing it. We wrote for about 75 songs and discarded about 25.
The 25 could be made into another book?
Could well be, of course. We never got down to that, but it's there lying somewhere in my old laptop. I don't know.
So hopefully we'll add another 25 and make into another.
Of course we can.
Now it should not be Geet Gaata Rahe Mera Dil. It should be Geet Gaata Chalo
Geet
Saathi.
Gaata Chalo Saathi. Right. Yeah. In fact, at some point we were so cramped that we went back to Harper and said, "Can we make it 60 best songs?" They said no. 50 is 50. That's it.
But it's a very difficult job.
Extremely difficult job.
You cannot satisfy anybody, including yourself.
Not even myself. I wouldn't say we were not satisfied with we were very satisfied with the book, but obviously we would feel that there is something else left out.
Because those days, it's the golden era for Hindi film music.
Yeah. And we recognize that. It can never be to anyone's liking. So, despite that, the book did well. We got a lot of public accolades and it won the MAMI Award. That made us happy.
And this is also one of my favorite, because whenever I just feel bad, I just go through the book. Maybe, and it's a dream, because I wanted to interview both of you and Anirudh Bhattacharya about this book, grill you, in fact.
Please do.
Maybe in future we'll have a Zoom meeting with both of you.
Sure.
So we'll take a small break here.